Hi everyone, and welcome back to this month's Yin Yoga and Restorative Yoga series. Today we are concentrating on opening up the shoulders and the lower back. These poses are going to be really wonderful if you spend your day sitting at a desk or in a car, you spend a lot of time hunched over, or to be honest, even if you just spend a lot of time looking at your phone, which we all do, don't we? So let's move into our very first pose. For our first Yin Yoga pose today, we are going to move into a Supine Halfmoon. So we're going to come to our back, lie down on your mat. Make sure you have lots of space at your toes and above your head. And from here, we're going to scoot our shoulder blades underneath our body and just start to push through our hips over to the side, creating a crescent moon shape with our body. We're really trying to create some lateral space here between our vertebrae and open up gently through our side body and our backs. Now, once you feel comfortable here, you can lift one arm up over your head and then lift the other arm up over your head. If you have space to interlace your fingers, you can do so. But if that's too much on your shoulders, you can simply keep your arms separated about shoulder width apart, stretching through your fingertips over to the side. Now, if you have any neck pain or shoulder pain here, you can bring down your arms and you can also come out of the pose just slightly. Anytime you feel a lot of pain, you want to back off. If you're just feeling discomfort, you want to try to breathe through it. Ask yourself, are you coming out of this pose because you just don't want to do it, or are you coming out of it because you really need to? We're going to continue to reach through the fingertips, reach through our legs, push through our hips. And we're going to stay here for 2 to 5 minutes as we open up through the spine, through our side body, and through our shoulders. When you're ready to come out, you can simply realign your hips, realign your shoulders. You can bring your knees up, windshield wiper them side to side before stretching back out and repeating on the other side. There's also an option to just lift one arm here, keeping the other arm on your hip. We can return to the center, windshield wiper our legs again before getting ready to move on to our next pose. For our second pose in today's sequence, we're going to move into Reclined Hero. So starting sitting on your knees, we're actually going to move our feet out from underneath us so that we can wiggle down so your sit bones are coming right to the mat. We want to keep our feet pointing straight backwards. Knees can be together. If you have any pain in your knees or you're feeling any resistance or they're starting to come up off the mat, you want to separate them just slightly as you start to come down. We're going to bring one hand behind us, the other hand behind us, and then gently move down one forearm at a time. You may need to stop here if that feels good, or if you're ready to move further into the pose, we're going to come right down onto our back. I'm going to scoot your shoulders underneath yourself, and then we're going to bring our arms up over our heads, grabbing onto opposite elbows. As you grab onto your opposite elbows, this is going to give you the ability to lift your chest, create more space in your chest. It's a deep, deep bend for the lower back. And we're also concentrating on opening up through our quads here and through our hip flexors. So this is really a great full body stretch through our front body and a good shoulder opening if you're able to bring your arms up over your head. We're going to breathe deeply here. And remember, if your knees start to pop off the ground, you want to bring them wider apart. If they're feeling good, you can start to walk them back together, making sure that they stay rooted down onto the mat. Once you've held this pose for 2 to 5 minutes, we're going to bring one hand back to our foot, other hand back to our foot, and come out the exact same way you came in. So come up progressively, letting your head come up last. From here, you can come back onto your knees, sit up tall, and get ready for our next pose. For our third pose today, we are going to move into a great shape that concentrates on the shoulders and the middle and upper back. So to come into this, we're going to come onto hands and knees. And if you have any discomfort in your feet, you can grab a blanket and just slide that underneath there. It sometimes feels really wonderful to do that. And then coming down onto our forearms, keeping our knees and feet hip distance apart. Hips stay high, stacked above the knees. And then just start to melt your heart forward, stretching your arms out in front of you. You can bring your head to rest on the mat here. If this shoulder stretch is feeling great for you, you can stay here. If it is a little bit too intense, you can always open your arms up. And if you'd like to move further into the pose, we're going to bring our hands into prayer and then bend our elbows, bringing our thumbs back towards the base of our neck. If you feel any tingling in your fingertips or your hands, you're going to back off the pose a little bit. This means you can be pinching a nerve. And we don't want to cause any damage in this pose. We're going to stay here for 2 to 5 minutes, letting our heart melt towards the mat a little bit further with each breath. When you're ready to come out, you can simply plant your hands and shift your hips back into child's pose. For our fourth pose today, we are going to move down onto the mat and do Sphinx followed by Seal pose. So we're going to come into a high plank and just lower ourselves all the way down. We're going to bring our arms out in front of us. And you can measure here, you can grab opposite elbows to make sure that your elbows are about shoulder distance apart. Then bring hands out directly in front of you, spread through the fingertips. Feet are just slightly apart here, toes are on the mat. You don't want to engage your legs. You want to leave them nice and loose. Make sure your glutes are nice and loose. We want to lift through the chest here. So make sure you're not collapsing into the shoulders. You want to lift up, open the chest, broaden through the chest. This is a really wonderful pose to stretch through the front body while also strengthening your back. We're going to breathe here. Head can stay directly in line with the rest of your body. There's no need to put your head back. You can just keep your spine neutral. Breathing deeply, stimulating your abdominal muscles, your internal organs. And if you would like to move deeper, what we're going to do is open up the feet to the edges of the mat, opening up your hands to the edges of the mat, spreading your fingers wide, pushing through your hands and lifting all the way up into Seal pose. Now, if you feel any compression in your lower back, you want to come back down to Sphinx. But if you're feeling open, if you can make sure that your glutes, your butt, your legs, your low back are relaxed, then you can stay in this pose for 5 to 10 breaths. And then coming down and finishing the pose in Sphinx once again, bringing feet closer together, lifting up through the chest. And then after about 2 to 5 minutes total of the pose, you want to come down onto your belly, bring your head to one side, and just shake your lower body back and forth to give yourself a really nice release through your lower back. For our final pose today, we are going to move into a wide leg child's pose. Now, this is a really wonderful pose to do after you've done a lot of work with your back and shoulders. So we're going to bring our knees nice and wide, at least the width of our mat. And you're going to bring your big toes to touch here. And then we're going to slowly just drape our body down onto the mat. Bring our arms out in front of us. Now, we've done some shoulder stretching today, so there's no need to really reach through our fingertips and do an intense stretch here. We can keep our elbows bent and just bring our head down. Let your chest drape towards the ground. Breathe deeply here. Let yourself completely relax. And you can try a variation of arm movements here if this one isn't serving you. You can open your arms up wider. You can even thread your arms through back to your feet. This is a really wonderful pose to help relieve any tension or compression in your back. It's also a gentle shoulder opener and is a great way to finish off this sequence. Stay here for as long as you'd like. And when you're ready to come out, We're slowly going to walk our hands up. Slowly roll ourselves back to seated and come back in to a seated position. I hope you enjoyed today's Yin Yoga practice. Now remember, if you want to incorporate these poses into a longer practice, you can check out some of the sequences I've got listed below in the description box. And don't forget to subscribe, because next week I'm going to be sharing a really wonderful restorative practice that you do not want to miss. So I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I can't wait to share the mat with you again very soon.